You are logged on to the Computer Corner Show. I'm your host, Phil Shortell, the lead instructor at Computer Corner here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And with me here today are my co-hosts, Carol and Joe Petronovich, the owners and creators of Computer Corner. And good morning to you both.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Hey, actually, some of these people are going to be listening in the afternoon or the evening, aren't they?
That's true.
Yes, they are.
Have to keep that in mind. Hey, if you think a MAC address is only for Macs, your meme is making you mean, or your mouse is a real louse, we're here to dispel your worries and lead you to the promised land of computer contentment.
That's great, Phil. You know, he improvises all this stuff. I never know what you're going to say.
Well, I cheat a little. I think about what letter I'm going to use before we start.
I see. So the Computer Corner Show is now available via a link from the Computer Corner website at www.compcorner.com and also on YouTube.
Now, for just a little bit of housekeeping, people listening to us on YouTube may not know who we are, so let's fill you in just a bit.
Sure. Computer Corner has been in business in New Mexico for 36 years, offering computer sales and service and training and computer recycling and electronic recycling to home users, businesses, and state, local, and federal government. We like to say that Computer Corner is high-tech with a human touch.
And we hold numerous contracts with government agencies, which includes those with the city of Albuquerque, the county of Bernalillo, the state of New Mexico, and Los Alamos Laboratory.
As our lead instructor, Phil is quite the software expert for sure, and Joe has been a techie for over 36 years. He's also a Microsoft Certified Systems Engineer, or an MCSE. He is well-versed on hardware and operating systems dating all the way back to DOS. Well, actually before DOS.
CPM, I would
Yeah.
imagine, yeah.
And also including, of course, current technology like mining rigs.
And Carol holds many, many sales certifications, so is pretty savvy about products and especially opinionated. I say that in a nice way.
Okay.
About the products she likes and recommends. Now, on with the show.
All righty. Well, today we're going to talk about computer myths. We are, in fact, going to debunk the top 10 computer myths that you should stop believing now.
Mm-hmm.
So, number one most important myth is that you can't get a virus if you have virus protection.
No, you can't. Of course you can.
Of course you can.
Well, and just, I guess the first one would be you could be unlucky enough to be the first person to ever have that virus sent to you.
Sure.
Before the virus software even knows it exists.
And I think everybody knows that you don't want to open emails from people that you don't know, or open attachments that you don't know who they're from and that type of thing.
Right.
But what about hacked websites? I don't think people know that websites can actually get hacked. How does that happen?
Well, how does it? Well, somebody puts a piece of malicious code on a website. As a matter of fact, just before coming in to do this recording, I was listening to the radio, and there was a story about how several websites have been hacked with malicious code, which leads everything to to another website in another country. Just happened recently in the last couple of days.
And now everybody can make their own websites, design their own websites just using WordPress or some other software. So it's real easy to have a website, but not everybody is well versed on security on the websites, and that's how these websites get hacked so easily.
And then there are the infamous pop-ups that come all the time, right?
The pop-ups come all the time, and once you click to allow them in, that shuts your antivirus software off, and you've opened the door.
Yeah, we've often said it's kind of like the old story around Halloween about the vampire. Once you invite the vampire across the threshold, he or she, I guess, can come.
Yeah,
Right.
And everybody sees the little pop-ups on the bottom of the screen for Java update and Adobe product update. Close those down, go to those sites, and get the updates from there.
I just did a piece on that in our last Windows 10 class, making sure that everybody knows that never trust anything. Probably you could trust it if it comes from the Windows 10 notification area, because Microsoft does some serious vetting there. But if it comes in the middle of your screen, don't trust it.
Sure. So the other thing that can happen is actually you're in your browser, you're going to a familiar place, but somehow you get redirected to another place, and that's browser nabbing and redirects, as we said. So you could be looking at your bank online, and there could be a little hack in there, and it could redirect you to something that looks like your bank, but it's a page you might never have seen before, and it might be prompting you to give personal information or bank information.
Earlier this year, got a message that looked like it was coming from Wells Fargo. But I looked at it and I said, well, I don't think so. And I hovered over it and looked at the address down at the bottom of the screen, and it was not going to Wells Fargo.
Oh, that's a good point.
Every week I get notifications from Wells Fargo. Every week. I don't have an account there. I have never had an account there. So know where you're going and look at that address bar and see if you recognize the address. And you're probably going to find that it's a long stream of all kinds of cryptic letters and everything. That's not proper.
No, you don't want to do that. Hey, let's go on to number 2
Sure.
of the myths, and that goes right along with number 1. And that myth is that you don't need virus protection on Apple computers.
Oh, boy, you do.
Well,
really
you know, Microsoft controls 93% of all operating systems on computers. That's as of last month or something, the latest statistics. So if you're a programmer, a malicious programmer for viruses, why would you want to attack 7% of the market? You can do more damage to the PC side, the Microsoft side, and I believe that's where they're coming from.
Well, Phil has a story he likes to
Well,
tell.
when I grew up, there was a bank robber who was very famous. His name was Willie Sutton.
Oh, yes.
And after they caught him one time, particularly, he got caught a lot, but after they caught him, he said, somebody said to him, Willie, why do you rob banks? And he said, that's where the money is. And
Exactly.
It's the same thing. If you can get more than 9 times as much chance to steal something by going after Windows than you can going after Macs, which one are you going to do?
Sure.
Very nice.
If you're
But it
malicious.
doesn't mean they can't get viruses. And Joe, you had somebody
That's
come
true.
in here, right?
We had a customer the other day that brought in their Apple laptop and really was disturbed that he had gotten a virus.
In fact, I thought you told me he didn't even believe you.
He didn't believe us at all. He thought we were scamming him for the service. And it finally turned out that he clicked on a site that he shouldn't have, and he did download a virus. It doesn't matter what kind of hardware you have. If you invite it in, it's going to infect you. That's all there is to
There
it.
was a big one just in January of this
Right.
year, right? The cookie miner virus, and it hit the apples.
It hit the apples, and people have just got to believe that it's going to hit everybody.
So at Computer Corner, we recommend Kaspersky Antivirus, and it's available for both Macs and PCs. Of course, we typically stock the PC version, but we'd be happy to order the Apple version for you too. But whatever you do, you've got to have virus protection, even if you've even if you've got an Apple.
It's a fact of life. You've got to have this.
Okay,
Right.
Carol.
Alrighty, so myth number 3, the more RAM or more memory your computer has, the better it will perform. And you know, this one's kind of debatable because it kind of depends what you're running.
So it may or may not be true. But what about RAM versus hard drive space, current session memory, and things like that? You want to give a bit of an explanation of that, Joe?
My belief on Windows 10 is, since that's the predominant operating system right now, and there's really no need to keep talking about Windows 7 at this point for
Support's
memory.
going away soon.
Support's going away soon. But Windows 10, you know, right after we put these together and we fire them up and we start activating Windows and that sort of thing, you really notice the speed difference if the computer only has 4 gig of memory or 8 gig. That's why we only sell them with 8 gig of RAM. That's the starting spot you need to get to. Yes, you can find them cheaper everywhere else. They come with 4 gig. You're just going to end up buying an upgrade at some point in time anyway.
So as a side note to this, you know, we're talking about Windows 10. There's a couple of versions of Windows 10. We've talked about this on other shows. There's Windows 10 Home version, and that makes it a computer less expensive. And then, of course, 4 gig makes it less expensive. So you might see these computers that are a great price someplace, and, you know, they've got 4 gig of RAM and Windows 10 Home. And you're going to be sad that you opted for that because eventually you're going to upgrade to Windows 10 Pro or Professional and probably add more memory.
Yeah, I just noticed that Microsoft Surface has a particular model that comes with Windows Home.
It does.
Running in S mode, which is restricted. And you can turn it off, but then you can never turn it back on, which is an interesting
Oh,
concept.
dear. So RAM is actually your current session memory. So whenever you bring up a screen, let's say you bring up a spreadsheet, it is taking up your RAM. And of course, that stands for random access memory. But That's different than hard drive space. Hard drive is spaces where you permanently store things.
And where your programs are located.
So the reason that RAM is so important is that if you have a bunch of programs up, or if they are intense programs like CAD programs or big spreadsheets, they're going to start slowing down if you don't have enough memory.
That's a good point. High-end programs tend to need more RAM to run efficiently, and I would think Photoshop would fall into that realm too.
And the capacity on hard drives, the hard drive per byte is so cheap. The minimum anyone should buy is a 500 gig hard drive. Beyond that, even the step up to the terabit drive is like $20 more. That's not the issue anymore. If you really want high performance and speed, get a solid state drive, and we'll talk about that here in a few minutes too.
It seems like only yesterday that your computer, if you were lucky, came with 640K?
That was definitely not yesterday, but it does seem that way, yeah.
Okay, and one of the things I point out sometimes when I do the classes here is that I started on IBM mainframe computers, and the first computer I learned to write programs for had a whopping memory size of 2K.
2K, very nice.
On an IBM 1401 Model G.
Yeah.
Okay, on to another myth. Windows is an unsecure or unstable operating system.
This one also might be a tad debatable.
Yeah.
But when you think about all the code that has to be written to get Windows 10 to do all the wonderful things that it does, and I kind of like Windows 10 now, you know, there's going to be a bug here and there, and they're always fixing them.
But I think it's probably the most stable platform Microsoft has put out overall when you look at things.
Yeah, do you remember how many times like XP used to crash? Oh my gosh.
Or ME.
Oh, well. Nobody.
We don't want to go there.
Or Bob, all the different versions that nobody bought, Vista, to name a few.
So keep in mind, it's only going to be as stable as your last update. So when Microsoft says they need to update Windows, you've got to do it. You've got to trust them. You've got to trust somebody. And if you don't do it today, you're going to end up doing it tomorrow anyway. It's going to happen.
Now, what about, this is a good question, I think. What about when they come out with one of their major releases? For example, when they came out with the Creators Update. That's not really a fix so much, is it?
No, that's a total revision of the code. But once again, there was a very good reason why they did that. And you've just got to do it. Now, keep in mind, when they have these major revisions like this, you've got to just walk away from your computer for a few hours. Just keep noticing the hard drive light, and if it just keeps pounding and pounding and pounding, don't do anything.
That's a really good point.
Absolutely do not interrupt this thing. Do not shut that computer off. If you've got to leave the house, but do not shut that computer down, because chances are you're not going to boot back up again. Just let it do its thing. It'll tell you when it's done. And there's been times in service when I've worked on a machine where at the end of the day you walk away and it takes all night.
Yeah.
And every single time, the next morning it's done.
I just want to go back to what we said before we got into these negative aspects of some of the things. Windows 10 is an inherently stable operating system.
Correct.
It really runs well. I love it.
And it's got a lot of neat features. So we're going to talk about that somewhat in our next podcast.
Okay.
So that'll be in 2 weeks. That's just a little teaser.
Do you have another myth for us?
I do. This is another myth. You must restart your PC after every installation of a driver and new hardware upgrade or software installations. Used to be that way, but not so much anymore.
You may have to, but the manufacturer may tell you to do that after the install of something. And with some and pretty much all virus protection software and things like that, they say that they have to get the system to restart. They've got to refresh the registry and stuff like that.
You know, I'm kind of from the old school on this. After every redriver install or update, I'll do it anyway. And then I'll run CCleaner.
Yeah.
I just feel better.
When we hit that plug-and-play era, which was now quite a while ago, 10 years plus, that's when it wasn't as necessary to do that. But there you go. It's a myth. You don't have to do it unless the manufacturer tells you.
And if they do tell you, please make sure you pay attention to that. Myth number 6, you need to safely eject your USB pen drive or thumb drive. Now, this is another one I talk about in class, and I talk to people about doing it, and then I say, well, you should, it's a good thing to do, but you don't actually have to. When would you not have to do that?
Well, Phil, first, why don't we tell them what we're talking about? Because there's method to ejecting it appropriately, I guess you could say.
Yeah, down at the bottom right corner of the screen on the taskbar, about 3-4 icons over in most systems, you'll find a little wedge that points upward. You can also call it a chevron. And if you click on that, it says you show hidden icons. And one of the icons in there would be an image of a pen drive, also called a thumb drive, also called a USB drive, also called a flash drive, probably called lots of
other things.
Sometimes I call them
we
something.
cannot say in a podcast. But that icon, if you see it there and you click on that, it will ask you if you wish to safely eject the drive. But you don't always have to.
You don't have to. I think all this started with version 1, the USB driver. It was slow, and Microsoft just wanted to make sure that all your data had come across and written to the pen drive before you pulled it out. So I think that's where it all started. Nowadays with 2 and 3, version 3, it is very quick. The pen drives are quicker accepting this data, and once you click on it and send your data there, it's there within a few seconds.
Yeah, except when you're doing major copies
Correct.
of a whole bunch of photographs.
Sure.
My quicken backup takes a little bit of while to do every time.
Again, what I like to do is if I send data over to a pen drive, I'll wait a few seconds. I'll go to that pen drive under my computer, make sure it's there, and then I'll pull it out.
Sure, but it never hurts to still use that feature, that function.
It can't hurt. It can't hurt.
Right.
Okay.
Alrighty, myth number 7. If you need to reinstall drivers for your printer or reinstall programs, the myth is you should go back to your install disks that came with your computer.
That's actually probably not a real good one most of the time.
No.
Why?
Well, again, wow, we've talked about this a few times. That computer was probably manufactured a couple years ago, if you've had it for a couple of years, and the drivers were probably old when you got them.
Yeah.
Or even if the computer was manufactured a week ago, it's conceivable that updates have been made
Sure.
since that time.
You know, we just took a new multi-purpose printer home, unpacked it, set it up, and the very first thing it asks you to do is check for a firmware update. Sure enough, there was one. But then you do not get CDs anymore with these products. You have to go to the website and download the latest driver there. Fortunately, for most people, Windows 10 has a driver that works.
Yeah.
There's debate whether to trust Microsoft or to trust the manufacturer's driver.
I'd go either way.
I think
probably.
either way anymore. If it works, it works.
Although sometimes if you use the Windows drivers or even during the Windows updates, sometimes one of the drivers can get overlaid and it doesn't work quite right. So you do end up going back to the manufacturer's website then too. But you probably will never need to go back to the original disks.
No. I think Microsoft learned a valuable lesson on this when they would overwrite the manufacturer's soundboard drivers, and then your sound wouldn't work. And you would have to go back and get your CD, put in your original driver to get your sound working again. They've come a long way, and
That was
I
the
don't
first
hear that
versions of
happening
Windows 10.
at all anymore.
So we're suggesting that you should go to the manufacturer's website to see if there's a new driver. Well, why can't you just Google it?
Google it. You're going to be getting drivers from all over the world in countries you've never
We
even
talked
known
about hacking and viruses and stuff already.
That's why you shouldn't Google it.
In the
Find out.
paperwork that came with that printer or that device, there's the proper address.
It'll show you the address to go to, and don't just Google it and think whatever pops up is what you want. Okay, myth number 8, faster internet speed equals faster website loading. Well, if you're talking about dial-up versus cable, then yes, faster is better.
Yeah.
For sure.
But why does it not automatically equate?
Well, because the pipe is only so big right now, and if you're on cable or dish, it's only going to allow you so much download speed and so much upload speed. It's easier to get the data to that pipe than expecting bigger results from the pipe.
Well,
Does
the
that
other
make
thing,
sense?
yeah, but the other thing is that the website servers, the actual website that these things
That's
are
true, too.
or the servers that these websites are hosted on, they control the speed a lot of times too because
They throttle it,
Yeah.
is what they say.
they sure do.
And this actually leads us to something that will probably be a subject of one of our future podcasts, which is going to be about net neutrality and whether you get anything with that concept or not. But let's leave that out for today
Yes.
because that'll be a different kind of myth, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay?
For sure. All right, myth number 9 is about anti-static wristbands. And that myth is that they are always needed when you work inside a computer.
Oh, but you look so cool when you wear one.
I don't think I look so cool when I wear one. Maybe you guys do.
You know, in 36 years of dealing with PC boards and troubleshooting PC boards, walking across tile, walking across carpet, holding memory in your hand, I have never blasted anything.
But you probably got a couple of nice little shocks.
I got a couple shocks. But what I've learned to do is before you do anything else, touch the side of the computer case,
Ground
discharge
yourself, yeah.
You know, the previous company that Carol and I worked for, you could always tell the technicians when they were going to coffee or coming back from lunch breaks, because they would have the coiled up wristbands, anti-static bands on their wrists. They wore it like a badge of honor.
The red badge of courage.
Those are techs. They've got the wristbands on.
Well, but, you know, bottom line is they're not a bad idea.
They're not a bad idea. If you feel confident doing it, if you want that extra layer of security, they're just a few dollars. But on the other hand, be careful what you're doing.
Yeah.
Do you know what you're doing?
Don't drop your lunch inside the motherboard.
Right.
It wouldn't be a good idea. Yeah. Myth number 10, there are such things as computer magicians that know everything.
Well, sometimes I kind of think Joe knows it, you know, almost everything.
Yeah, I think everybody here knows a lot. But there is so much out there, it's just impossible to know everything.
That's true.
So what do? You call somebody who knows more than you do. That's one thing you can do. But you, as a computer user, have a tool right in front of you where you can become somewhat of a computer magician yourself. And it's called Google.
But then we just talked about how you need to be careful when you do Google something.
Indeed. If you've got, for example, a message that comes out from Microsoft and it gives a number, you can Google that message number and hopefully make sure that you're going to the Microsoft website.
Right.
And then you will get accurate information about what that message means most of the time. Every once in a while, some of them are really awful and they tell you things that you cannot possibly comprehend.
These error codes from Microsoft are probably 8 to 10 to 15 digits long. No technician in the world can tell you what this is.
Off the top of their head.
Off the top of your head. They have to Google it. They will Google it. If they want this computer fixed, they have to Google it. I've done this, and once you get on Google, you're going to see thousands of replies. You've got to be careful. You've got to try them. I would say 60 to 70% of them don't work.
So sometimes you can find info on YouTube also, but remember what was it, the iPads, iPhones, what was it? Oh, iPhones.
When they came out with the new version of the iPhone that did not have a
8-inch headphone jack,
microphone or headset. And then people went to Google and were shown a beautiful video of somebody showing you how to put a microphone or a headset jack into your iPhone by taking out an electric drill and drilling a hole in a certain place.
And people did this. And then they took them into the Apple store and said, why doesn't my headphone jack work? And they said, there is no headphone jack. And they said, well, yeah, but I added this. They just destroyed their iPhone.
What do you think? If you drilled a hole into the side of your LCD flat panel monitor, would it have a speaker jack?
Be a good idea.
Not a good idea.
Why did Apple leave out the headphone jack?
Why is that, Phil?
Oh, I thought you'd never ask. They left it out to give the phone a little bit more protection from water. Not to make it waterproof, but to make it a little bit more water resistant. If you did, as I have done, not with an iPhone, but with some other phone, dropped it into accidentally a particular porcelain convenience, and you can get it out fast. And if you get it out fast, if there's no microphone jack, it didn't seep inside.
Interesting.
So there was a good reason for that.
Good to know, Phil.
Okay. Hey, we've reached the end of our show for this week. We hope you'll join us again in 2 weeks when we'll be talking about some hidden Windows 10 features you surely wish you knew about.
And if you want to be updated when a new show is posted, you can subscribe to our e-newsletter by going to our website at www.compcorner.com. You scroll all the way down to the bottom of the homepage to sign up. And when you do this, you'll also get a digital coupon for a free computer diagnostic exam at Computer Corner in our service department, of course.
Pretty good deal. Free.
Yeah.
Normally we charge $25, which is still a bargain.
Unless you're a veteran, and then it's free.
But free is better than $25 for most
is.
people. Anyway, we hope you'll think of Computer Corner for all your hardware, software, service, and training needs. Until we meet again, please mind your bits and bytes. This is Phil.
And Carol.
And Joe.
Wishing you carefree computing. The Computer Corner show is logging off.